two renowned platforms, including La Revue Liberté. So thanks everyone for being with us. I want to start with this. So the name of the program obviously is an homage to Abbas Kiarostami and to his film Where Is My Friend's House? As we found, as the programming team found that both of your films are films about people looking for a house, looking for, their place to be in this world. So you three are from three different cultures: Iranian, Syrian, Canadian. Um, what do you do for hospitality? What do you do when you receive a friend at home? Or let's put it this way, do you have a memory of hospitality that you cherish?
Question is hospitality that I cherish. Well, there's one scene in the movie that is sort of based on something that happened to me when I went to Tehran. The first time I took a train, and I went to the train station. I had a little valise, like a little bag with me, and I left it right next to where I caught the train. I got this train to Kashan, and I went, and almost at Kashan I realized I had forgotten this bag in the train station in Tehran. And so then I had to take another train to go back and get it. And this was, many hours elapsed. It took, some time to get there, and I had to go back, and the bag was in exactly the same place. No one had touched it over the course of many hours. And so we transformed this moment into a little moment in the film of this forgotten briefcase that's been left there for 40 years. And that this is, sort of a monument to absolute solidarity, that, we would just leave that there. So I was really touched by that little moment. It became a little, thing in the movie.
Yeah, maybe it was first, I wanna, it's a chance for me to talk about Iranian cinema. I mean, it's a long time I didn't watch Iranian movie, so it was a chance to see and to talk and to test my memory about what I remember from, and how can I catch the elements from those movies about Iranian movie. First, the title of the event. It's interesting for me because it's inspired by Kiarostami movies, and both movies have elements of Iranian culture. And for me, Iranian cinema stands out as a unique and recognizable cinema. For me and for maybe journalists or cinema lovers in Middle East, Iranian cinema teach us how to work around the censorship because they developed many ways to deal with the censorship, and they developed that to be as a signature or as a key feature. And seeing those two movies, I could just catch some elements from those. I mean, even the movies that made out of Iran, I mean, away of censorship, also they kept some key features of Iranian movie that I catch here. Talking about hospitality, I didn't maybe got the question in good way, but I always someone host me, not because I used to move, especially last 12 years after the war in Syria. I kept just moving till I came to Montreal, and I always, when someone hosts me, I just suggest some movie to see and to remember our country. Yeah.
من واقعیت اینه که یکم گیجم. اولا 5 ساعته دارم فیلم میبینیم و یه سیگارم نشده راحت.
So first of all, I'm a little bit confused because it's been 5 hours smoked. I didn't get a chance to smoke, so I'm pretty tired and pretty confused.
اما بیشترین چیزی که منو گیج کرده این دو فیلمه که نمیدونم کارگردانش الان کدوم، من کارگردان کدوم فیلمم. فکر میکنم مثلا متیو خیلی دوست داره ایران باشه، من شاید دوست دارم اینجا باشم، از این بابت گیجم.
But I'm mostly confused about, I don't know which one of these movies. I was the director actually, so I believe that Matthew wants to be in Iran more than me.
یه جورایی انگار متیو میخواد کانادا رو ببره ایران رو بیاره کانادا، نه کانادا رو ببره ایران، من ایران رو بیارم کانادا. این حس به همین یه گیجم.
So in a way, Matthew tries to bring Iran to Canada, and I try to bring Canada to Iran. So technically, I'm really confused. I don't know what what actually the situation is.
این چیزیه که فعلا در شروع میتونم بگم.
This is what I can start with.
و اگه بهش چیزی بخوام اضافه کنم، دوست دارم از چون من خودم دیدم و چندین هنرپیشه، اون هنرپیشا بعضی‌هاشون اینجا هستن، خصوصا نیما که هنرپیشه اصلی.
So I want to just thank Nima as the actor who is here.
You both made a picture about otherness, but also about loneliness. Two emotions that are deeply linked in both your films. Yet filmmaking, even when you were alone behind the camera, like you were shooting your film, is pretty much always a team endeavor, like an adventure of people going on a journey of filmmaking. You, Matthew, seem to have started the idea for this film out of maybe isolation, also grievance, and you, Reza, out of migration, and I guess an impossibility to find a place in our local film industry. How did your own feeling of loneliness, who inspired you in the first place to make these films, evolved during the shooting, and eventually during the reception of your films, and eventually during also tonight's screening? I mean, did you, as you were watching each other's films, have the impression to see maybe an experience that you can relate to?
Yeah, lots of questions in that question. Yes, certainly. I mean, I think actually, that's why you make films actually, is really out of lonesomeness. You want to I think it's about friendship, right? I mean, I think that's why you make a film, is because you're trying to connect. You have a longing to connect and a longing to relate to the world. And what I really love about filmmaking is the collaborative nature of it. That's what I love. I'm a big believer that you should always make films with your friends, and even the tiniest group of friends. It can be great. And our movie is very, it's prismatic. It's sort of, it's this strange kind of, it's a little bit like the Salvador Dali's Lobster Telephone. It's sort of a merging of spheres, it's sort of, this sort of poetic filmmaking I associate with the Qanun Institute, merged with Winnipeg surrealism and Quebecois melancholy, and they're sort of merged into one, and the idea is to make something new out of that. And all of us making the film, we're really learning how to see, kind of for the first time. I think that every time you make a film, you're learning how to see. But we were learning how to see as a group, and what was really fun about making the film was creating this brain, this sort of Quebeco-Irano-Winnipegois brain. And when that brain's really calibrated, it thinks, and it's bigger than each of us as individuals, right? And so that's what I really love. I mean, so I think that it is a reaching out. It's a movie that, yes, it does you know, it is working through feelings of solitude, but also longing for great community. You know, it's a film that it's sort of trying to create proximity between spaces, between which we typically imagine great distance. And that distance can be enormous even between two people in the same room with each other, right? So it's about that. It's a movie that is really longing to connect.
I mean, as a journalist, I used to ask more than to answer, and they did their movies, so maybe I will ask more than, and I will tell what I've seen from the movies, from I mean, universal language, and in Shrine. I just recognized how much snow there are around me. I'm a newcomer to Montreal, so how much snow I'm living in. And some of the meaningful scene when the two girls and the camera was circling around in a nice way around their faces when they discovered the 500 riyal under the ice. I mean, it's meaningful, like how many ice we should defroze to get money and to get life, especially the immigrants who came from other countries. So it's meaningful for me. But I will pass the question for Abdolreza to answer you.
من این فیلمو با این فکر شروع کردم که تنها باشم، چون از جمع خیلی خسته شده بودم. شاید کمی حسم متفاوت باشه با متیو. خواهی تو زده.
So I started this movie specifically because I wanted to be, you know, lonely. I don't want to be connected to others because I was feeling some kind of, you know, tired of being with others.
افسرده نیستم، اما احساس میکردم که جمع رو میتونم در تنهایی به دست بیارم، چون وقتی در جمع بودم دیگه به دستش نمیوردم اون چیزی که انتظار داشتم.
So I was not depressed, but I felt that I can connect to the community, connect to the larger group through being alone on my own and you know, making another form of experience.
من فیلم های زیادی با گروه های بزرگ ساختم که خیلی دوستشون دارم و از همه اون کسانی که در تیم بودن قدردانی میکنم. اما ما جمع میشیم که زندگی بسازیم، ولی گاهی احساس میکنم گروه های بزرگ مزاحم زندگی هست.
So I have worked always with large crews, huge groups and big groups, but right now I feel that what we want to do is to create life, but working with large crews, you know, works in a contradictory way. It kills life. It kills.
احساس کردم که من باید با یک دوربین خیلی ساده وارد زندگی بشم و آدم‌ها رو با اون دوربین کشف کنم و شبیه مردم باشم که اونها نمی‌ایستن منو تماشا کنن که دارم فیلم برداری میکنم.
So I wanted to observe people, to create movies from people without being directly engaged with a large crew. I don't want people to feel that I'm creating a movie from them. I just want to get connected with them, very simply.
و برای همیشه از تنهایی میترسیدم، اما یک ساله که احساس میکنم که چقدر تنهایی رو دوست دارم.
I have always been afraid of loneliness, but during last year, I, you know, specifically realized that how I like being lonely and you know, being alone.
اگر هنوز وقت دارم صحبت کنم، دلم میخواد در مورد فیلم متیو بگم که میخواد اینو ببینم اگه وقت دارم مثلا.
Yes, if he has time, he wants to add something about Matthew's movie.
فیلم متیو برای من بیش از هر چیزی تنهایی رو داشت نشون میداد، از این بابت که دوربین تحرک کمی داشت و گاهی آدم ها در بیشتر فیلم خیلی دور بودن از ما، مثل یه نقطه بودن و انگار که یه صفحات ورق میخورد با رنگ‌های زیبای متفاوت و یک آدمی یه گوشه گاهی پله میدیدیم و یک آدمی که وایستاده و یک قاب بزرگ خالی و این فیلم
It's really hard to
خیلی
imagine many details.
خیلی این حس رو به من داشت میداد.
So Matthew's movie depicted actually the loneliness because you see in his movies we see people as spots in different frames. You know, we have a bunch of colorful scenes that move one to the other without any disconnect.
چون صحبت از عباس کیارستمی شد دوست دارم یک نقل قول ازش بکنم.
So he wants to quote something about Abbas Kiarostami because he mentioned Abbas Kiarostami.
میگه درخت وقتی درخت تره که تنها باشه.
He says that tree is treer. It is alone.
شما در جنگل انبوه درخت نمیبینید، جنگل میبینید. ولی وقتی یک درخت میبینید مثل پوستر اشراین اون وقت درخت رو فقط میبینید.
So in a lush jungle you do not realize the tree, the single tree. But when it is alone and when you only be able to see one that tree, then you can realize what the tree actually is.
من تشویق نمی‌کنم تنها بشید فقط.
I don't encourage to be alone, but I just want to share my feelings with you.
Can we say something?
Yes, of course.
Both directors talked about you, loneliness, and you about the connecting with people. But I saw in the two films many messages which are very, very, very important. In Shrine, I saw Shrine could be related to what is going on in Iran. In Iran, you know that there are a lot of shrines, big ones. The shrine of Khomeini, the shrine of Imam Reza, and many people come and put money inside, tons of money, and it goes where? We don't know. It goes to the pocket of the mullahs. And the person who made the shrine in your film, at the end, the feeling he had, because he is a human, he can't tolerate it. And he's asking how the people are doing this in all of the world, in the Muslim countries, even in the Christian countries, they got lots of people because the people believe in the God, and they don't know where does it go, and they don't know where they have to spend it. And the Matthew's film, it is about the kindness of the people of Dun. You, as the character, the main character, you are looking for your mother, for the house, but you find some other things in the film. What are the other things in the film? Is the people who are thinking about the others, who can help each other. And in the world, we don't know where it is going, this world, where everything is lost. The humanity is lost, and the many morality. Thank you so much. Both films are very, very good.
Obviously, if anybody from the public wants to ask a question, please don't hesitate. So, it seems to me that aside from your differences, you are both filmmakers who show tremendous resourcefulness. And resourcefulness is maybe the most recurring trait for someone trying to find its place elsewhere. I mean, immigrants always need to show resourcefulness in front of others, in front of administrations. It's either this or you eventually disappear into like the gray and brown walls of administration or outside in the snow. What do you think you learned from your sense of displacement or from being away from family, from this resourcefulness that you got in you and that after that you were able to apply in your filmmaking?
من یه چیزی رو یاد گرفتم، اینکه باید کار کرد و هر روز صبح پا میشم و به خودم میگم که باید رفت جلو با همه مشکلاتی که همیشه وجود داره. همه چیز گاهی احساس میکنم که ضد تلاش یک آدم هست در همه جای دنیا، فقط صحبت از کشور خودم نیست. میخوایی بگو چجوری حافظه؟
So he says that I have learned that every day when I wake up, I must act. Everything in your life, in entire human's life, is against you. Everything stops you from trying, from making something, from moving forward. And I do believe that whatever it takes, you should just move forward.
من نمیتونم منتظر بشینم و سنم بره بالاتر تا قوانین تغییر کنه و گاهی احساس میکنم که این قوانینی که در ظاهر خیلی درسته اما باعث شده که آدم‌ها زیر قوانین خیلی زیاد مدفون بشن.
So I do believe that I should not wait to grow older without acting. So I do believe that we should act despite heavy bureaucracy that actually bury people under that. So we should not stop.
ما یاد دادن که به قوانین احترام بذاریم، ولی من خیلی کم میبینم که قوانین به آدم‌ها احترام بذارن.
We've been taught that we should respect regulations, but I don't think otherwise is true. Regulations are, do not actually respect us.
اینجاست که آدم احساس میکنه فقط خودشه و خودش و کسی رو در جهان نداره. بنابراین باید صبح بیدار شه، بره کار کنه، نه منتظر گرانت باشه، نه منتظر تلفیلم باشه، نه منتظر سالن‌های سینما باشه، نه منتظر دیستریبیوتورها باشه. باید بره و کار کنه. این تنها چیزیه که من یاد گرفتم و با همین هدف در جاهای مختلف فیلم ساختم. خوب یا بد، مهم اینه ساختم.
Good or bad, I have always tried hard to make my movies. So I have never stopped for grants, never stopped for any sort of help or any administration to help me to move forward. And I do believe that this is the only thing that I need to do. I need to act and move forward without relying on any, external resources or any external help.
حرف زیاده. ولی فکر میکنم که این یه خلاصه.
There are a lot to say, but I think I would, just mention this concise thing.
Yeah, I have to agree with a lot of that. I mean, it's I've made films with money, without money, and you just have to sort of do it. It's a big game of shells, and I made a decision long ago that I could not be euphoric if things were going well for me, and I could not be depressed if things were going badly. I would just try to, lumber forward and do what I had to do, because you never know how things are going to go. It's a real gamble. But I don't know, as far as resources are concerned, Winnipeg, as you might know, is the world capital of Hallmark Christmas movies. I think something like 40,000 Hallmark movies are produced there every year. And what I've learned from the Hallmark movement is that it only has to be Christmas time inside the frame. Outside the frame, it can be a beautiful August summer day, but inside the frame, it's Christmas, you know. And this is something I thought about a lot when we were filming because, well, we were thinking, actually watching Shrine Abdolreza, the last scene, we were wondering how cold it was because Piruz and I were freezing in Winnipeg. We were really, really frozen. Our costume designer, Negar Nemati, we had this theory that she was, I don't know, trying to like wear us down by giving us summertime costumes in the cold weather. But there was one day where it was like really hot. It was like plus, I don't know, plus 10 or something, and all the snow was melting. And that was really, it's kind of sad. I think any filmmaker who makes a winter movie will tell you, oh, it was the warmest winter on record, you know. I think each subsequent winter is warmer than the last. Winter as a season is sort of becoming an endangered season. So anyway, we really invoked the Hallmark wisdom, you know, tried to make that work for us. And then maybe the more, I don't know, existential part of your question is, just sort of what we learned about making the film. I mean, it's, you know, it's strange to make, you know, it's an interesting task to make a, you know, intercultural movie in multiple languages. Stepping outside of ourselves is kind of something we don't do a lot in the current politics. And, you know, I grew up in Winnipeg. I came to Quebec sort of after the referendum, and you know, I didn't speak French at that time, and that involved a big stepping outside of myself and sort of moving into a zone. And now, you know, I pretty much live in French, and so my life has had this sort of pattern of stepping outside of itself, and it's a thing that I really like. And there's this quote from Parajanov that I really love. We were looking for ourselves in each other, in Color of Pomegranates. That was sort of the banner under which we made the movie.
Maybe Nabil?
Yeah.
I mean, like, maybe you could like segue on this question because like you as a critic, as a writer,
Yeah.
like trying to establish yourself outside of Syria. What did you learn about this resourcefulness, and did you felt it also in these two films?
Yeah. Talking about resources and sponsors of cinema, I mean, from the area that I came from, or I was living there, even Lebanon, Syria, or somehow Turkey, waiting for someone to support you. It means that you are waiting the government to support you in somehow, because always government makes movies, which means they will make their movies. They will make movies with their vision, with their political ideas and other things. But making your movie, it means there is no resources. Maybe sometimes you will use your phone, mobile, to make. 5 years ago, a friends or group of friends of me, they made a festival about mobile camera movies, because in Syria, all the activists in that time, they were making short movies by using their mobile. After 2 or 3 years, we just recognized that we have like a ton of rushes and movies, and it could be in a festival, and it was, I think, in somehow better than the movies that the government made. So movies with low budget, for me, it's meaningful. It makes me see and support, because they don't have money to make movie, but they did. It means they have a message in somehow. In a Shrine, for me, there is something like that. Like, it's clear that it's a movie with a low budget, but I mean, wow, it's great. Yeah, that's what my idea about resources.
Yes.
Sorry, I have a question from Matthew. If I say your movie was a concentrate from few most important films from the Abbas Kiarostami. Are you agree with me, or you say something else?
Yeah, the plot with the two sisters is very much sort of inspired by Qanun and these films about children facing adult dilemmas. It's the story itself comes from a family story. My grandmother told me this story about her life during the Depression in the 30s, and she and her brother found a $2 bill frozen in the ice on the street in Winnipeg, and it was sort of a story that kind of hovered in my consciousness. And then later, when I got to know these films by Qanun, the White Balloon, all of these great films, it reminded me of my grandmother's story, and there was something touching to me that my grandmother, who was this octogenarian lady who had always lived in Winnipeg and only spoke English, that there would be this story from her youth that would find echo in these Iranian films on the other side of the world. And that was something sort of beautiful to me. And so the seed of the movie kind of came out of that. But again, it's a remixing. We can enter the movie through a few different doors. I think of the story of the tour guide, Masoud, as very much in the tradition of Winnipeg surrealism and Winnipeg absurdity. I think it owes a great debt to John Pays and John Paskovich and even Guy Madden. And then the third plot, where I perform, that is very much inspired by what I would call cinéma gris québécois. There's a whole sort of movement in Quebec cinema that's just sort of inconsolably melancholy. Just very, full of just post-referendum angst and disappointment, and it usually follows this solitary, preternaturally lonesome protagonist on a sort of death march into total meaninglessness and self-destruction. And so that story, that's what I was trying to invoke. It's my own plot. So it's these three spheres, and the movie is playing with cinematic language and remixing it and sort of trying to give it a new function. And there's a process of defamiliarization of all three. They're kind of fed through the prism of each other. And the idea is to create a new familiarity that is sort of at the confluence of all three.
By the way, it was a very lovely movie, because you should have a real special talent to make that circle.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, that's what the brain was doing. It's it was the work of a whole brain full of inspired people, and yeah, we do really think of the film as a very, very direct expression of our friendship together.
There's like, obviously there's a lot of similarities between your two films, and there's something that I found like really interesting while watching them again, was like that you have these scenes like where people like especially like trying to dig up something, be it either like a bill of reals or like just like to have like to see or to catch some water beneath the ice, and there's this quote from the end of A Shrine, when like the character is speaking more and more about like pushing things aside, and like to see like what is beneath, and he says, when you push anything aside, you see what's behind it, and I was wondering, speaking of language, Matthew, for your film, you pushed aside English, and Reza, in your film, you also pushed aside English and French, and eventually we hear some English, but like it's only at the end, like it's in the last 5 minutes of the movie, and I think that the first words that are English in The Shrine is your character asking, "Anybody home?" So I mean, like, I think it's conscious, I guess. So I would want to hear you both about like what did you find while pushing aside these languages.
I apologize, but I can let you give quick answers to this question, but afterwards we'll need to close this question because we must close the cinematic. So
Nice.
I'll let you have your like closing statements, but afterwards.
You can closing, but you're here.
Il y a des règles dans cette vie.
تو گفتی خب من چون الان مترجم دارم شاید احساس بشه که من یه فیلم به زبان انگلیسی به طور کامل ساختم، یک فیلم به زبان فرانسوی فارسی ساختم.
I created a movie in English and in French, Farsi language as well.
چون زبان برای من زبان نیست، احساسات، صورت، چشم. برای اینه که بچه که بودیم فیلم میدیدیم، حالا تو سن من اون سالا سابتایتل نبود ولی فیلم رو میفهمیدیم.
So for me, language is not only language. I mean, it only, it doesn't mean only speaking and talking. Facial expression, eyes, ears, everything means language to me. So that is why 10 years ago or 20 years ago, when there were no subtitles, we were able to understand movies only by watching the expressions in the face of people and actors.
برای همین همیشه سعی میکنم تو سناریو چیزی رو بنویسم که نمیشه دیگه با صورت و احساس دید یا باید روش تاکید بشه.
So I try to include things in my scenario which are not necessarily be able to be transferred through facial expression. Something necessarily should be expressed by language.
من یه سناریو نوشته بودم که اجازه ساخت من ندادن، در مورد 2 آدم بود که زبانهای مختلف داشتن ولی با هم داشتن خیلی خوب زندگی میکردن.
So I had a scenario which was banned, and it was about 2 people who had 2 different languages, but they were able to communicate effectively with each other.
و همین زبان همیشه برای من واقعا آنقدر که شاید برای همین بلد نیستم خیلی.
So probably it is the case that I don't know English that much good because language has not always been a barrier for me.
Yeah, I just think there's a lot of films in English, It's a lot of films in English.
That's true. That's true.
Too many. I mean, there's too many. And, the story in the film is kind of autobiographical, but I didn't really feel that had to be in English as a result. I don't think that had any bearing on it really. And Piruz and Ila and myself were really excited about the idea of making a film in Farsi in Winnipeg. We thought that would sort of expand the space of cinema, expand our artistic and experience and our lives, and indeed it really did, and that's exciting, that's really exciting. It's about sort of creating a new space and creating more space.
Well, so I guess the only closing statement that I'd have for you and also for everybody here and for this first Critics Week would be welcome home, and thank you everybody, and see you next week.